So welcome everyone. My name is Michael Jose, and I am the host and narrator for the first annual production of the Gilbane Community Theater. Professionals bare their souls and lives are changed. So the play that we have today is going to be performed in 3 acts. The title of the play is One Project, 3 Strategies. It's a story that everyone's going to relate to because it has to do with a major site rebuild. So in the first act, we're going to meet our characters who are full of enthusiasm and hopes and dreams and know that this project is going to go exceptionally well. The second act is going to move forward a little bit, getting a little more towards reality, where the project is way off the track from the start, and people, both the innocent and the guilty, are looking for cover, and no one seems to remember who started this thing. So it's a recipe for a disaster, even though there were good intentions, because of all colliding. Now in the third act, we're going to do something that we never get to do in real life, which is to turn back the clock and start over with a suggestion for how things could be done right. Once it's over, we're going to do a traditional cast party. But the difference is that instead of having your really good discussions out in the hall as it normally goes, you're invited to come down, meet the cast, be part of the party, and share your own experiences and your own thoughts about what you saw today. So everyone will get some input on how a site redesign should really happen. Now let's set the scene here. Okay? The site we're working on exploded onto the market 3 years ago, and it grew very rapidly as the leading shopping site for its brand. Well, that kind of success, growth over 3 years, has a price to it, as everybody knows. And that price is that there's a lot of confusing content there and a lot of very flaky functionality. So to make matters worse, a competitor has entered the scene. And they have a very seductive user experience and really are challenging as perhaps the leading brand and taking that away. So a third-party market research firm was employed. They came back and said what was absolutely obvious. Your site experience is terrible, and you have to do something about it. Visitors are overwhelmed and confused, and they can't find anything. You have tons of content, more than anybody else, but it's just not accessible. So after reading the report, the CEO decided it was time to put a project together and get a team assembled. And so let's meet that team. We have the software developer, played by Seth Gottlieb. We have the content strategist, played by Rahel Bailey, and the creative director, played by Jeff Grant. And now we're going to turn it over to them to really introduce themselves to you.
I'm thrilled to be the creative director of this project. Just to give you a little bit of backdrop, the creative director has a very important role. If you're not familiar with the role of the creative director on a project, I manage a team of art directors, information architects, UX experts. We have a fantastic team here at this project. And really my goal is to think about the brand, think about the big idea, think about how this user experience connects with our users around the world. And it's a very important role, especially given competitive pressure as well. We have some challenges from a creative team's perspective often. It's really patch the technology that runs our experiences. But my role is to really put together an experience where the user doesn't see or understand what technology is driving, but instead it's a great brand experience. That's really the perspective that we have. Now for this specific project, I do have some goals and ideas. And I have a theme song, because I'm all about big ideas. What we're going to do after we read this song is we're going to avoid design by committee. I've been part of a lot of different what happens, I get a great idea, my team gets a great experience today has no soul. Our users, it's successful. We are selling the product, but there is no brand experience on the site. So my goal for this is to bring a consistent brand experience throughout this entire site. Secondly, there's so much attention put on the homepage in these website redesign. In my belief, creative director, thinking about the big idea, is the homepage really doesn't matter as much as people think it does. It's really about these small interactions, the interactions that happen throughout the entire site. So part of what we're going to focus on in this redesign is looking at all these brand interactions that are happening across digital, across the website, across mobile. We're going to differentiate those as part of this project. I'm really excited to collaborate with some of my colleagues on that. And because it's a CMS project, we want brand consistency. We're going to provide a visual toolkit for development teams so that we can ensure as we get into the site deeper and deeper that there's a consistent brand experience, even if we know how the opportunity design is made. So I'm excited about this project. We're going to knock it out of the park. I'm excited to introduce my other two colleagues as well.
Thanks, Jeff. So my name's Seth, and I'm the lead developer here. And you might not know me, but I work on all the applications that you use. I work on the content management system, the CRM, AP, the GL, the ERP, any system that you use, I probably work on. I have a secret to tell you. The systems here beat crap. But nobody knows because somehow I'm able to keep them all running. Just barely. Matter of fact, the code is it's a total chaos of bad code and brittle code, and I'm afraid to touch it because when I do one thing, everything else breaks. So when you come to me and ask me for a feature and I say no, doesn't mean that I don't want to build a feature, doesn't mean I can't build a feature, it means I'm afraid to build a feature. And everything's going to fall over. The truth is, we build our systems around here totally haphazardly at the last minute. All the projects are the same. Late starts, vague requirements, unreasonable deadlines, and then last minute heroics like me. So just to get a site up that just barely works. We always say that we're going to go around and fix it later, but we never do. It's always the next project that's going to take our attention. It doesn't have to be that way. I don't want to work that way. I have these grand illusions, these dreams of building these elegant systems that you just love. Systems that are scalable and flexible. Systems that are easy for me to maintain. Systems that just evolve with the company over time. But how can I do that when I'm just learning about the requirements right around the right? I think things are going to change here. I've been hearing all the greatest things about this new project. They've assembled a great team, and upper management seems to get that we can't work this way. So they've got a great new content management system. I've been looking at it. It's very powerful. And I have a lot of ideas about how to improve things. APIs so we can integrate with external applications. I want the system to snap together like Legos. And I don't want to bother bother with any outdated browsers and write old HTML code. And lastly, I want to do this project the agile way. I want to work collaboratively with my other stakeholders. I want to learn the requirements to the level of detail that I need. And also I want to learn the spirit behind the requirements so I can get an idea of where the project is going to go, so I can build in flexibility to the correct places in the technology. And I also want to have time to do things like unit testing and continuous integration so that when we redeploy the site over and over again, I don't have to cross my fingers and hide the server when the site goes down. So those are a few of my favorite things. I'll introduce Rahel, our content strategist.
Hi. I'm the content strategist on the project. And this is the first time they've had a content strategist, so they don't quite know what to do with me. I'm a little bit like an exotic pet. But what they don't realize is that I have a very deep understanding of content, and I know it from the point of view of kind of cognitive processing, as well as from the point of view of editorial and standards, and of the importance of kind of storytelling and presenting content in context. But I also understand content management kind of enough to be trouble, right? Enough to be demanding. And so I know how to, when somebody tells me a line about, oh, we can't do that, or the system doesn't work that way, that I can come back and say, we need the system to work that way. And I really get frustrated when technologists and creative directors get in the way of the content, when they try to tell me that it needs to work in a certain way, and I'm thinking, but that's not the way people browse, or that's not the way people read, or they're not going to get that from 2 words in the title. And my personal mission is to make sure that the organization treats content like a business asset, because I know it's a business asset, and I know it's valuable. This is what people come to do on a site. They don't come to the site to look at the navigation. They use the navigation, but they use the navigation to do something, and that is to get to the content, because the content is what's going to sell the product. It's going to be what convinces people. So we know that the technology is important, and the design is important, but we know that really what they're coming to the site for is to consume content. And that is a message that sometimes gets through and sometimes doesn't. So, our breakfast song has a long intro. I think that's a very appropriate intro. I've seen those English dramas and they are cruel. So I want to see a site and have a project where it's content-driven design, where it's not that there's this design and then you have to kind of shoehorn the content in and you have this content that's all kind of squished up and screaming to get out and show its true beauty. I want to see content that's broken down into components that can be reused and syndicated within the system, so that we can really make the content do the things like personalization, and that it will be easy when it comes time to translate and localize it. I want to see content that's separated from format. I don't want to have content that's stuck inside tags that, when you move it from here to here, now you've got some formatting errors and you have to go in and kind of manually tweak it. I don't want to be doing copy and paste anywhere in the system. I want to have a single source where the internal audience, so up until now we've been talking about the external audience, but that the internal audience, the content authors, can create or tweak the content in context and do it once, and then be sure that that content is being spun out to all the places it needs to be spun out to. I want to make sure that the content adheres to content standards. So if we are using micro formats, then I want to make sure that we're using the right ones and that we're even using them. And I want to provide the kind of deliverables that will make it easy for the technologist to understand how I want the content implemented, because I have that understanding of the marketing goals and the business goals, and to make it all happen. So now, Act 2.
Okay, so everybody has good intentions. I didn't hear anyone say, what I hope to do in this project is get promoted and get these other two people out of here. But do we have any creative leads in the audience? Good, because you're about to get beat up. Because in most site redesigns, the creative lead runs the show. And it makes sense because somebody important went to the site, looked at it, and said, this is a mess, it's really ugly, and who better to solve that than somebody who really understands aesthetics, and that would be the creative lead. So in this scene, we're going to join the project during a design review. And this is when the creative lead reveals the vision of the site to the rest of the team for the first time. Now let's cut to the boardroom and see what's happening.
Good afternoon, Seth. Good to see you. Thank you for joining me for the first round design meeting. We're so excited. I'm so excited. Members of the content team can be wow. Lucky we got bumped from value. Let me just say, the team has been working night and day over the last 2 months to make this design real. We have got a vision and a design that's going to knock yourselves off. We're so excited about this. But before we jump into design, I just want to remind us all that we're working for an incredible organization, incredible mission. I mean, we are all so lucky to have this job at the time. So many people have great jobs. So I don't need to remind you that we work for Beaver World. Now, beaverworld.com, for those of you that may have just joined the media, is the premier destination for not just Beaver fans, but there's a lot of Beaver fans. There's a lot of sites where we love Beaver community. We are moving merchandise. We are selling stuff. We're not just selling posters. We're selling actual Beaver belongings. The legend was born. Byproducts of this concept. Things that experience in life. These are moving quick. It's real-time commerce. You can buy it from anywhere, any device. It's really exciting. So as the design team sat down and said, how can we overtake this competitor, which is Planet Beaver, which is all enough? They're everywhere. We've got a great design. We came up with just one word to define what we needed to do. It was sizzle. This site is sizzle. And I know you can make it happen. We've got some best folks involved in content, right? It's content. Of course, yes. So, we came up with a design. We worked for 2 months on this. And I'll show you the whole page. It's fantastic. You're going to love it. So here we go. I bring you Beaver World up. Now, before you pause, I'm sure you enjoyed this. Let me just talk about it. So I'm going to walk through some of the key requirements for the project. Because I know, I'm a creative director, but we have gone around the organization and gathered requirements and done the designs. So for beaverworld.com, I think it's really important. We talk about silhouette. You see the cover flow in the middle where all our products are featured. This was actually our CEO's idea. He said, his words verbatim were, make it like Apple. He said we wanted cover flow. And so this really is behave exactly like Apple. And I'm really excited about it. The second thing you probably noticed, there's a lot of work on this month side. We took the liberty really to help you out with mapping out exactly where content should go. Before I mentioned all this, but the important thing is you're not going to want to really change the length or the state. It's pre-designed but fit our layout. So as you're writing the content, thinking about it, just make sure that it fits in the block. But it's all planned out. take all these variables and we should name these things and make a total recommendation. And this includes we do have some beaver haters, and I don't know where they come from. They're a small segment of our audience. We are going to segment for that. We have a special experience. I think we're going to discount the product, so I think we've already given the price. But all these are going to recommendation, and every single aspect of the segment experience is customized for our old CMS. I know couldn't do personalizations. We're going to hamstrung, but this new one is so excited about. Now, the other thing you should know, we were talking to some of our overseas folks, and we know we want to expand globally. It's largely a U.S. operation. We're successful in the U.S., but there will be new markets coming on board. Now, unfortunately, we don't know what markets they'll be in. We've been told there'll be 2 or 3 rights for it. So you'll notice that back in the design, so language talk about a lot. So we just need to make sure from an architecture perspective and from a content perspective that when that announcement happens, we probably have a week or 2 weeks language, that it's kind of ready for internationalization. But Beaver, as you know, is a worldwide company. We cannot not have a global site, so we are planning for those. Now, the other thing is, this is 2011, it's not 2007. We know that people buy, we know that they buy, right? So we want to make sure that this is built for mobile first. We couldn't really come up with a list of all the mobile, so many mobile devices. We couldn't really come up with a list of all the mobile devices. So we just gathered everybody's mobile device and the company took a picture of it. And this is actually the requirement that the set of these everybody knows. The important thing to note is the BlackBerry. The BlackBerry is the CEO's device. And one of the requirements, he wants this site to look exactly the same on the BlackBerry. I told him we sat this like the best. Now, the other thing is, if you've been to Planet Beaver, and we all have, if you've been to Planet Beaver, you'll notice that it's kind of like exciting. It's not very cool. So our creative team ranges from 24 to 10 hours. The goal is every site is serendipitous, exciting new experience every team on the site. And so we have, the good thing is we map that for and I think all the content offers in the audience, you'll be working on these pages. We saw the demo, and CMS is telling us, we saw the demo, you can pull up any page on the site, and you can swap around them. So you can take the right sidebar, put it on the left sidebar, you can drag and drop it. It's fantastic. So even there's only 24 food layouts, we're going to have hundreds, because all of you are going to develop your own layouts. And Planet Beaver does, right? Am I right?
Keep going.
So here's a little bit of friction, and I know Seth is going to cross it when we wait to make this happen. As we all know, Beaver's 2012 World Tour was just being announced, and it's pretty exciting. But he's going to be February 15th where it kicks off. And I know it's just around the corner, we've got the holiday. But our sponsorship group negotiated title sponsorship. So our goal is to pre-negotiate the posters already printed, plastered. We've got all sorts of media rights committed. We're going to launch this at the actual conference. And Justin Bieber himself is going to talk about Beaver World at his conference. I mean, is that fantastic?
Well, that's something.
So I know what you're thinking. This is awesome. But you're thinking there's a lot there. And there is. And one of the things as a creative director, I know that slows down project, it's just all these approvals to be done. So what we did is as we designed the site, we got all these approvals forward. So everything I just talked about, the business has already approved. Not only that, but the CEO has already briefed the shareholders saying this is a done deal. So you don't need to question So I mean, that's really the vision. And I have Photoshop files already to go. I can email them over a CD if you want me to give them to you for the files. But I look forward to seeing this next February 15th. We probably want to build in a week for QA. So sounds great. But I really appreciate you
thinks that was an exaggeration? Raise your hand. Well, I didn't get one. Was that an accident, or did you really mean crazy? Okay. So, okay, I think it was intended to be an exaggeration, but I think we've all experienced the emotions that are happening over here. So, in that act, we looked at old school processes that lead to failure. Oh, I'm sorry. My fault.
Wow. So, you look a little in shock. Do you want a drink? Because I have vodka. I always do that when it comes to me.
I don't even know where to begin. I'm in shock. I don't know where to begin. Well, let's start with the requirements. There aren't any. There's just vague promises that could have been taken 1,000 ways. And, like, take localization, for example. You mentioned that, oh yeah, we're going to do localization. Well, what does that mean? What does localization mean? Does it mean we're going to have different sites for all the different countries we're going to be operating in? Or is it going to be one site with different language versions of every piece of content? I need to know these things in order to make the right decisions that to build a site. And those deadlines are absolutely unrealistic. I don't even, how is this approved? I'm going to have to spend, well, first of all, I'm not done with my last project. I'm finishing up the ERP system, and I'm not going to have any time to talk to all these stakeholders to figure out what they thought we were wrong. And all those templates. Hey, here's a secret. Template code is the hardest to reuse test. And there's going to be gigabytes of it. And 24 layouts, if I'm a content editor, I wouldn't even know where to start in choosing a layout. This is crazy. And testing, let's talk about testing a little bit. Template code you can't really test. All that personalization. He doesn't seem to understand that with every personalization variable you just casually put up on that PowerPoint slide, we're going to have to test all the different values on all the different layouts, on all the different devices and platforms. It's absolutely insane. As a matter of fact, if we started testing today, a certain site was built, we wouldn't be able to finish testing just by first. And what else was I doing? Oh, here's a huge pet peeve. Don't tell me anything new. If you don't code on the platform, you surrender your right to tell me anything. And out of the box, there is nothing out of the box. Out of the box is a file that I can push on the server. It'll take me 5 years to build a system like that properly, but I'm going to have to cobble it together in a matter of months. What did you think?
Yeah, similarly, it was just kind of astounding. That's why I had to put this thing halfway through because, first of all, he didn't really even have content on his radar. He's talking about like layouts and this and that, and he doesn't really think like, okay, we have a feature product over here. What's going to happen when we drag the layout around? And does that persist for the next time the person logs in, or does how is it supposed to work? What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to break up the content? And to kind of ramp them up too, because we have to understand the new goals of the site based on these like vague things he gave us. I just wish I could go home.
Okay, now I'm supposed to say, in that last act, we showed how old school processes lead to failures that we're so used to seeing in these types of projects. So requirements and design were done in a vacuum, with the expectation that all of the functionality would just work right out of the box, and that all the content could be poured in at launch time. Nobody had a realistic view of the needs of different project goals. This project's on a collision course, actually, with disaster. Nobody will like the site. The designer will be annoyed that all the content's ruining the site. The developer will resent all the compromises that had to be made in order to meet these unrealistic goals. The content people will be stuck with a site they can't fully manage, and eventually the site's going to fall into the same level of neglect that the site they're replacing is. So what we're going to do now is roll back the clock, and in the next act, our characters will go back to the time to start the project right. So we're going to see a project kickoff that takes all three disciplines and uses their best practices to communicate with each other and to work efficiently and collaboratively.
And so we really need to kind of think about how our disciplines work together. So, the technology has to be really strong, and the design has to be really strong, and the content has to be really strong, because really what we have to think of is the site visitors at the center of all this. So we're thinking about the visitor experience here. And so the flexible technology is really the underpinning of everything. And I want Seth to be able to do a really good job at building up the technology so it can do what we need to do to support the business requirements. And then on top of that, we're going to layer the content strategy, which is going to manage all the content. And then your design is going to create that compelling user experience that's going to make sure that we beat Planet Beaver's butt. So, our site's going to be content-driven, and what we want to do is really support these business objectives. And we want to leverage the power of content, definitely, but we also want to leverage the creativity of your design, because that's what you excel at. I tend to think in words, and I know that you think in a lot of images and just really kind of compelling imagery and navigation, all those pieces that come together to make a good design. And Seth, I know that you've got it in you to do some really good engineering elements that will allow us to do all those things that we need to do. And I'm hoping that on this project we can work together to make all that happen. So we call this a strategy. We're not going to come at this piecemeal like we've done in the past projects. We're going to have a strategy, and we'll make sure that all these three levels are in there, and we'll put it together and go forward with it. So we're going to think about things through the content lifecycle. So what I you want to do is to do some localization, for example. Well, you have to think about that on the first go-round, because if you leave it until you're published your source language and then you come at it, it's going to come back to bite you. So how we author in the source language is going to be affected by, it's going to affect how we localize later. So we need to know all those things up front. Which languages, are they left to right, right to left, what kind of culture are they, what differences do we need, what are the local conditions that we need to allow for, and we need to think about that up front. We need to think about all those things like personalization too, because that's going to change how we put content together and how granular we have to get. And so that kind of goes into content structure. So we have to think about that before we even start writing, before we even put fingers to keyboard. And I need to think about how it's going to be filtered, all the different channels, the different devices we have to output to, and how that's going to work. And because of all of those things we have to think of, right at the beginning, we need to think about the schedule and the budget and the resourcing. Because what we do in the rest of that cycle is going to be affected by those things. So as part of the content strategy, what I want to really look at is, first of all, what we have. Because if you don't know what you have, then you don't know what you're dealing with, and you don't know, what you can use, and you don't know how to respond to design. So we have to do an inventory so that we can look at what we have, and then we can say, okay, here's the stuff that's usable, and here's what we can do with it. And then here are the gaps, and here's what we need to create. And then we have to make sure that we can make the content findable, because obviously if they can't find it, they might go with our competitor and look for it over there. And then we have to make sure it works within the CMS. So this is like a little series of steps to get to where we need to be. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a content inventory. And you see here I took a little crack at doing some stuff for Beaver World. And yeah, we don't have a lot of depth here, so we're going to have to probably step it up to make sure it can personalize the way we need it to be personalized. And then after that, I'm going to do a content scorecard, because if we're going to reuse this content, we have to get a little bit of consistency in there. So I have a 35-point scale that I measure the content against. So it's everything from editorial, like are there any typos, do I have the hat sizes wrong, and stuff like that. But it's also, do we have alt text on the graphics, because we need to make it accessible. I don't know if you've heard about the recent lawsuit against Target where they lost because, we don't want to be going there. It's very expensive. We want to make sure that the structures are right, and that it works for technology, so that Seth can just kind of do the things he needs to do in the system and not create any real code, and so on. So I'm going to do kind of an inventory, and I won't do it with everything because we've got thousands of products, but if you can give me the most popular, we can go back to the requirements document, find most popular, I can pull them out of there and we can measure on those, and then I'll know how many writers I need to put onto the project to whip the content into shape and then to create the new content.
Well, I can probably write you some reports to help you with an idea of counts and types of content, the size of the target one.
Oh, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. Yeah. So like an automated inventory, like a screen.
Yeah.
Oh, good. And do we have any software, maybe in the somewhere else in the organization that does kind of content quality?
Well, we've written some scripts, but I know there's some products we want to develop.
Okay, good. Yeah, that would make the job so much easier, and we could get closer to a reasonable deadline and everything like that. And then I'm going to do some content flows. So I did look at the homepage that you put together and see the way you've got these feature products. So I just put together a simple content flow to show you the kind of flow that I would create so that you can see which fields of content get automatically pulled out to go into which areas. We can take this one content chunk and we can say, let's pull out the product name here for the author to manage. And we can also use that on the product page. So that means that we have like 1/3 less of the content to create and maintain, but we also have 1/3 less of the content to translate. So that's going to bring our localization costs way, way, way down.
This is really helpful for my team. What we'll do is just have to provide some early wireframes. A lot of times, knowing what content is going to be available for someone to experience and actually make the first draft wireframes.
Sure, yeah, and that will give you an idea of how much space to leave, because we don't want to have that situation where we can't actually describe a product the way it needs to be described to sell it. And we know what the selling points are because marketing gave us that list of the things that people are really looking for. Then I can do a content matrix to show you kind of what rolls up from the subsidiary pages up to the summary pages. And we can actually give this to the writers to let them know, like everything that I've outlined in pink is an image, and then whatever's in green is content, so that, and if it's gray, it means that it's not on that page. So when you look at that, you can see kind of what, if you have like clothing, and then it rolls up to the clothing summary page, it can give you an idea of how to perhaps structure set your code. Does that help you at all?
Well, it's going to be great for the content model. As a matter of fact, we can start to prototype with content management systems, and that'll help you learn some of the nuances of developing it to see how next week there are different ways to do this content.
And I'm sure it's going to be iterative because every time I turn around, I'm finding a new content type somewhere and thinking, like, where do I fit this in? And so as we go, we probably have to mush around the model a bit, but do you mind that? Okay, good. And then here's content modeling now. I can take the first crack at it, and then you can tell me what information I'm missing, and then maybe we can take a couple runs at it to get everything down before you start actually writing code.
Yeah, and it's great, especially when probably around the time the wireframes are going to hit, and when we start thinking about functional rules and display content, we'll identify additional parameters or additional metadata to track about content.
Oh, definitely. And Jeff, if you have the wireframes of kind of where you want things placed, then I can maybe identify other content types and we can go through those together, and then you can tell me what you intended. Because the last project, I had a content switcher, and nobody really realized what that was, and so we didn't build it because we thought it was static, and we actually wanted to pick up the most popular item from the last 7 days, like our rolling 7-day inventory. So if you kind of tell me what you envision as interactions, then we can make sure that we create the content types flexible enough so that we can actually do that.
Actually, I've already seen this content model a lot simpler than I thought. We thought we would do a lot more using templates. So I think what we're going to do is standardize a lot of the page elements to have standard content sets across each product.
I'm really happy to hear you say that because what we know is that readers like consistency. They like to know that the image is in a certain place on every page and that the price is in a certain place on every page. So if we show you what we've got, what we come up with after we do our inventory and our analysis, then it'll help you create as many as you need, but we're hoping that they're not that many.
It still needs a sizzle.
Oh yeah. So when we're looking at the project schedule, what we really want to do here is we want to do some user research, which we understand is more or less done. And we need to do the personas and scenarios. So I saw the beginnings of that in a previous document that you provided. And we need to do the wireframes and content development kind of in tandem because you're going to be developing wireframes, but we have to get a big start on the content. So if we know kind of what we need to do, we can start creating it.
I'd like to mention that our CEO is a little finicky. He knows what he likes, and I'd like to get some kind of brand words in initial just brand concepts in front of him before starting the wireframes. I think otherwise we're going to get creative approval and he's going to have some machine for there.
Right. Okay. And I'll give you whatever sample content I can so that you can populate it with some real content and you can try to make informed decisions. Okay, and then we can do like the real visual design. Like once we know what the wireframes are and some of the content, we can give you whatever content we have, then we'll flesh out the visual design. And then Seth, if you can start on the development and we're going to need to iterate a couple of times, obviously, because we want to make sure that we get all the components in. And then
what we also can do is start to build out new sections of the site, so we can do some early testing for easier parts of the site and maybe some product pages, so we can incrementally build out the content.
oh, I like that. Yeah, good idea. Okay, so we can sit down and schedule that afterwards. Okay, and then we can figure out how we're going to implement and test, because obviously we have to keep products on the current site up to date, so we need to figure out what we can, where the content can be frozen and what we need to kind of keep iterating and how we're going to work that out. So I know it's going to be tricky, but I think if we work together, we can figure that part out. And then we can launch. And I know that the launch date is getting a little fuzzy, but how?
Well, I think what we can do is there is a February 15th date for marketing. I think we can do a microsite and we can launch some of the early elements of our brand and kind of announce the site.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that I think that would be good. Yeah, I'm all for it. Count me in. And then we have to have that dreaded G conversation, the G word, and that's governance. Because right now, the CEO will go in and, I actually caught him in the CMS, like, editing product descriptions the other day. And he can't be doing that. Are we going to have some idea about who can do what? Because we have to, first of all, we have to code it into the CMS versus workflow, because the lack of workflow in the old system is how we got into this mess in the first place, content lines. And so we need to have it to know who can update the content, and we need to be able to track better when things are out of stock or when that limited edition item is gone. So we need some kind of publish and retirement scheduling. And if we're going to do personalization, we have to know what our governance model is going to be, because otherwise it's going to get completely out of hand. I can just see it. And we
Yeah,
need to know.
actually, I ran into Lisa Welchman before this meeting, and for those of you who know, she's fantastic. She specializes in web governance. So I asked her if she could come and run a workshop about what to do, because so we can start to think about some of these standards, some of the post-launch elements that have been around and think about this getting right.
Oh, that would be good. And having her as a third-party person, I think will kind of deflect some of the stuff that if we said we would get, the privacy is a little bit tricky. Okay, well, I'm so glad you said that.
One other thing is I was talking to my director, since web is such a big part of our business, we're going to dedicate some development resources to continually improve the site. Once we have personalization, we know we're going to get things wrong, and we have to tune that and continually maintain and enhance the site. And that's not realistic if we don't have that.
True enough. Oh, I'm glad. And I'm going to look at my writing resources and see who we can kind of pair up to kind of be the maintenance people on those ends of the site too, so that they both develop an expertise, the developer and the writer. So that would be good.
I'm just going to give my 10% to that goal.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's,
Okay. So I think, what we're doing here is we're putting together a roadmap to project success, because we all have good work. I mean, we're not here to fight with each other. We really want the consumers to have a good experience. And the way we were doing it before just doesn't work. I mean, it was part of the growth phase of the maturation of the industry, but now we're into a new phase, and we really just need to find a better way of working together. And I think it's just part of the maturity model for us to be, moving up to the next phase and saying, like, let's do this collaboratively instead of at odds with each other. So, do you agree?
absolutely. That's a group hug.
Okay. In all fairness, is there anyone who doesn't think this was a little tiny bit of an exaggeration? There's no magic bullet, but absolutely nothing will ensure project success like what we saw here. Okay, in this act, this is what happens when two things. People work collaboratively together, and all the stakeholders really have a voice. And the key is that it's content-centric. So it doesn't really matter which of the roles is standing at the select term. What matters is that it's about content, because that's what the website's all about. So our actors address the core issue of how content was poorly organized and difficult to find. They also set the path to a maintainable technology foundation that's flexible in the right places. And finally, they focus design to complement rather than compete with the content that had to be created. So we thank you very much for supporting this first annual Domain Community Theater, and we now welcome you to come up to the cast party and tell us your thoughts.